Do you yourself see yourself getting married?
Yeah, for sure. Lots of kids. I won't be rapping by then, so I can be like full-time mom and like have a garden in the back and like chickens and cows and horses and like 10 dogs. That's really in Jamaica.
What the girls lack in common sense, they make up for in looks. If this news and this announcement caught you off guard, then I just want to say that you and George W. Bush could probably go intellect for intellect.
What started as a flashy album rollout and a suspicious baby bump has now turned into one of the messiest celebrity rumor storms the internet has seen in a long time. And before we go any further, let's make one thing crystal clear. This video is commentary based on reports, speculation, online reactions, and the kind of whispers that have been spreading fast across blogs and social media. We are not claiming any of this is confirmed fact. But if even half of what people are saying is true, then this situation may be far uglier than anyone expected. Because according to the latest chatter, Latto's pregnancy reveal didn't just stun fans. It allegedly sent absolute shockwaves through 21 Savage's private life.
I don't even know what to say, y'all. Thank y'all for all the congratulations. Business and Personal out now. Big Mama, the album, May 29th. I'm Big Mama, for real. Big Mama, one kid.
What was supposed to look like a glamorous, mysterious Big Mama era rollout suddenly turned into a full-blown public scandal the second people started connecting dots, zooming in on details, and asking one very uncomfortable question. If that baby really is tied to 21 Savage, then what exactly does that mean for the woman many believe has been holding down the real home behind the scenes? And that's where things get explosive. Because now, online reports are claiming that 21 Savage's wife is not staying silent anymore. After years of rumors, side-eye, sneak disses, and fans speculating that she had simply accepted the situation, insiders are now painting a completely different picture. They're saying this pregnancy news may have pushed everything past the point of no return. Tempers allegedly flared behind closed doors. Phones were reportedly blowing up. Emotions ran high. And if the whispers are true, one confrontation may have happened that changed everything. We're talking accusations, humiliation, broken trust, and a power struggle between the woman people say had the title and the woman the internet believes had the attention. Fans are shocked, timelines are in chaos, and the family may now be more divided than ever. So how did this rumor spiral into claims of a private meltdown, a relationship crisis, and one of the most uncomfortable celebrity triangles online right now? Because once you really start putting the pieces together, this story gets a lot messier than the headlines are letting on. The moment that announcement hit social media, everything started shifting in a way nobody could ignore. At first, it looked like a typical rollout move, something dramatic to get attention, something stylish, controlled, almost too perfect. But then fans started slowing things down, replaying clips, zooming into frames, and picking apart every detail like detectives trying to solve something bigger than just a music drop. People noticed the way Latto held her stomach, the way the camera lingered just a little too long, and most importantly, the brief appearance of a man's hand. That one moment turned curiosity into chaos. Timelines lit up with side-by-side comparisons, screenshots of tattoos, old pictures resurfacing from years ago, and suddenly the same name kept coming up over and over again. 21 Savage. And once that name entered the conversation, the tone completely changed. Because this was not just about a possible pregnancy anymore. This was about history. This was about rumors that had been floating around for years, finally coming back with more weight than ever. Fans remembered the old collaborations, the suspicious timing of posts, the vacations that looked way too similar, and the little hints that both of them had tried to play off as coincidence. One fan wrote, "We've been knew something was going on, but this right here is different." And that single comment summed up what a lot of people were feeling. It wasn't just gossip anymore. It felt like something had crossed a line. And while the internet was busy trying to confirm whether 21 Savage was involved, another conversation quietly started building in the background, a more uncomfortable one. What about his wife? For years, people had debated her role in all of this. Some said she knew everything and chose to stay quiet. Others believed she was being disrespected behind the scenes while maintaining a calm public image. And then there were those who insisted that the relationship between her and 21 Savage was more complicated than it looked, possibly even arranged or strategic in some way. But now, with this pregnancy rumor gaining traction, that debate took on a completely different tone. Because this wasn't just about him spending time with another woman anymore. This was about a child, a permanent connection, something that couldn't be hidden behind vague statements or avoided with silence. And according to multiple online reports, that is exactly what pushed everything to a breaking point. One insider post that started circulating claimed that the moment the news reached his wife, things escalated quickly. It described a situation where phones were ringing nonstop, messages
were being sent back to back, and tension was building with every passing minute. No calm discussions, no quiet acceptance, just raw emotions spilling out in ways that had apparently been held in for a long time. Another account suggested that she had been trying to ignore the rumors for years, convincing herself that whatever was happening on the outside didn't affect her position. But this time, it was different. This time, it felt public. It felt humiliating. "This is not something you can pretend not to see," one comment read, echoing what many believed she might be thinking. And then came the alleged confrontation. Details are still unclear, and again, this is all based on circulating reports and online chatter, but the story that's being told is intense. People are saying that she reached out directly, not through intermediaries, not through vague posts, but personally. Some say it was a call, others claim it happened face-to-face, but either way, the message was supposedly loud and clear. This was not going to be ignored anymore. Interview 433-456. "You knew exactly what you were doing," one version of the story claims she said, her voice shaking but firm. "Don't act like this just happened by accident." On the other side, Latto is said to have remained calm, almost unbothered by the tension, which only made things worse. "I'm not hiding anything," she allegedly responded. "I'm living my truth." And that right there is where emotions reportedly exploded. Because for someone who had spent years trying to keep things together behind closed doors, hearing something like that would feel like a direct challenge, like everything she had been trying to protect was now being openly dismissed. Fans are shocked at how quickly the situation escalated in these reports, but at the same time, many say it was inevitable. Because when you combine long-standing rumors, public attention, and a moment as serious as a pregnancy announcement, something was bound to break. And while none of the people involved have confirmed any of this directly, the silence itself has only fueled more speculation. Every post, every like, every small interaction is now being analyzed like evidence in a case. People are watching closely, waiting for a reaction, a statement, anything that might confirm or deny what's being said. But so far, all they have are clues. And those clues are painting a picture of a situation that is far more complicated than it ever appeared on the surface. Because behind the music, the glamour, and the carefully curated images, there may be a real story unfolding, one filled with tension, betrayal, and decisions that could change everything for everyone involved. And if the rumors are even slightly accurate, then this is no longer just a trending topic. It's a full-blown situation that could reshape relationships, reputations, and the way people see all three of them moving forward. Once the alleged confrontation started making its way through gossip pages and fan spaces, people stopped looking at this like random celebrity mess and started treating it like a full reality show unfolding in real time. Suddenly, everybody had a theory, everybody had a timeline, and everybody was trying to figure out who had known what and for how long. And the more people talked, the uglier the picture became. Because if there's one thing the internet loves, it's not just drama, it's patterns. And once fans started revisiting old clips and interviews, they began building a narrative that made this rumored situation feel even more explosive. People pointed out how Latto had spent years presenting herself as someone who moved carefully, someone who knew her worth, someone who had standards when it came to love, marriage, and building a family. That image had become part of her appeal. She wasn't supposed to be the woman stuck in a messy triangle. She was supposed to be above that. So when the pregnancy rumors hit, people weren't just reacting to the alleged baby. They were reacting to what they saw as a complete contradiction. One fan post that got passed around a lot said, "The same person who used to speak like she would never be in this kind of position is now allegedly standing in the exact storm she used to act too smart for." And harsh or not, that kind of comment was everywhere. The internet can be brutal when it feels like someone has broken their own image. But according to the reports circulating, the pressure wasn't just landing on Latto,
it was landing even harder on 21 Savage, because now people were saying he had created a situation he could no longer manage with silence and distance. For years, he had allegedly kept both worlds separated enough to avoid a full collision. One side got mystery, attention, chemistry, and public hints. The other side got privacy, stability, and the title that came with being the woman people believed was still officially tied to him. And as long as those two realities stayed separate,
could keep moving through the noise without really addressing it. But a pregnancy rumor changes everything, because now the stakes are different. Now, this isn't just about sneaky links, private dinners, matching locations, or songs that fans think were coded messages. Now it's about legacy, family, responsibility, and a public image that suddenly looks a lot harder to control. And according to the gossip that started spreading, that is exactly what caused things to reportedly blow up inside his household. One account claimed that the atmosphere at home turned cold almost immediately. Conversations allegedly became shorter, eye contact was minimal, and the tension was so thick that even people around them could feel something had shifted. Another report said that instead of denying the rumor outright, 21 Savage allegedly went quiet in a way that only made things look worse. And that silence? People are reading it as guilt. Because in celebrity culture, silence doesn't always calm things down. Sometimes it acts like confirmation. If it wasn't true, somebody would have shut this down already, one fan wrote. The fact that nobody is saying anything is what makes this feel real. And then came the reactions from people around them. According to online whispers, not everyone in their circle was staying neutral. Some were allegedly telling his wife to walk away and protect her peace before the humiliation got worse. Others were said to be encouraging her to hold her ground and not let another woman publicly take what she had built behind closed doors. And that's where this stopped being just romantic drama and started turning into a power struggle. Because when a situation like this becomes public, it's no longer only about feelings. It becomes about position, about pride, about who gets seen as the one who won and who gets reduced to a headline. And if the internet has decided anything in this situation, it's that nobody wants to be the woman left looking replaceable. Some reports even suggested that the wife was less angry about the alleged relationship itself and more furious about how public and symbolic the pregnancy made it all feel. Because according to that interpretation, this wasn't just cheating or disrespect. This was another woman potentially stepping into a role that carried emotional weight. Not a fling, not a rumor, not a phase. Something deeper. And that possibility reportedly changed the tone of everything. One blog claimed that in a private conversation, she allegedly told him, "You can embarrass me in private all you want, but don't ever let me become a joke in public." And if that line was really said, it explains why the reaction has been described as so intense. Because public humiliation hits differently, especially when the internet is already picking sides. And speaking of sides, fans did exactly what fans always do in messy situations like this. They split into camps. One side argued that if Latto really is pregnant and really chose to go public, then she must know something the rest of the world doesn't. Their theory is that she wouldn't allegedly move this boldly unless she had been promised something serious behind the scenes. Maybe commitment, maybe reassurance, maybe the belief that this was finally her time to stop being treated like a rumor and start being acknowledged like something real. Women don't usually make this kind of move unless they think the man is leaving, one comment read, and that opinion started catching on fast. But the other side saw it very differently. They argued that if all of this is even remotely true, then this wasn't confidence. It was a gamble, a huge one. Because there's a difference between being loved in private and being chosen in public. And a lot of people online are convinced that those are two very different things when it comes to men who are used to balancing multiple realities. That's why some of the most brutal commentary hasn't even been aimed at 21 Savage. It's been aimed at the possibility that Latto may have believed a baby would automatically shift her position in his life. And if that is what happened, fans are saying she may have seriously underestimated how complicated this already was. Still, despite all the criticism, there are also people defending her. Some say she shouldn't be the only one getting dragged if he allegedly created the situation too. Others are pointing out that celebrity men often move recklessly and then leave women to carry the social fallout alone. And that conversation has added another layer of heat to the entire rumor storm. Because now this isn't just about who did what, it's about who gets blamed for it. And right in the middle of all that noise, one thing kept making people uneasy. The idea that there may have been children, family members, and close friends witnessing the emotional fallout from the sidelines. Because while the internet turns these stories into entertainment, the people allegedly inside them may be dealing with something much heavier. Awkward silences, broken routines, forced explanations, questions nobody wants to answer. And if these reports are true, then the damage may already be stretching far beyond just the 3 names in the headline. Because once trust cracks inside a family, even the people who aren't directly involved can start feeling the aftershock. As the rumors kept spreading, what really pushed this whole situation into another level was not just what people were saying happened behind closed doors, but what fans believed they were seeing happen out in the open. Because in celebrity drama, people don't just listen to statements anymore. They watch body language, timing, silence, and even energy. And according to a lot of online commentary, the energy around all three of them started looking very different. People began noticing that Latto's recent public appearances seemed more intentional than usual. Every caption, every pose, every soft smile in photos, every carefully framed angle was being interpreted as part of a message. Some fans thought she looked unbothered on purpose, almost like someone who had decided she was done hiding and was no longer interested in being subtle for anybody's comfort. And that alone made the rumor storm even worse. Because if the internet thinks one woman is moving with confidence, while another is allegedly at home trying to process betrayal, people immediately turn it into a battle of status. One popular reaction said, "The calm one is usually the one who thinks she already won," and that sentence hit hard enough that it started getting repeated everywhere. At the same time, 21 Savage's silence was beginning to look less strategic and more suspicious. Every day that passed without a direct denial made fans even louder. Some said he was trying to wait the storm out and let people move on. Others believed he was trapped, knowing that no matter what he said, somebody would end up exposed, embarrassed, or angry. Because think about it, if he denies everything too strongly, people will start asking why the rumors line up so neatly with years of speculation. But if he says nothing, the silence keeps feeding the idea that something very real is happening. And that's exactly why this whole thing started feeling like a slow public collapse, instead of just another celebrity headline. According to several rumor pages, the alleged tension between his wife and Latto didn't stop with one heated exchange. Some stories claimed there were follow-up messages, more emotional back and forth, and even pressure from people close to both women who were now allegedly involved behind the scenes. And once friends and relatives start stepping into a situation like this, it usually gets messier fast. Because now you're not only dealing with hurt feelings, you're dealing with pride, loyalty, and people trying to defend their side before the full story is even clear. One source post claimed that someone close to his wife told her, "Don't let them make you feel like you're the one being replaced when you built the foundation." And that phrase, if true, says everything about how this has allegedly been framed in private, not as a simple relationship problem, but as a takeover. And if that is the emotional lens the situation is being seen through, then it explains why so many fans believe there is way more pain underneath the surface than the public even realizes. Because for a woman in that position, the humiliation isn't just romantic, it's symbolic. It's the possibility that another woman may now carry a kind of visibility and emotional significance that changes how everybody sees the relationship moving forward. And if there is one thing people struggle to forgive, it's being publicly reduced after years of private loyalty. That's why some of the harshest commentary online has centered around one brutal question. If this pregnancy rumor is true, does that mean Latto has now become the emotional center of 21 Savage's future? That question alone is enough to destroy peace in any already fragile setup. And while nobody involved has confirmed that level of seriousness, fans have been filling in the blanks with their own assumptions. Some think the relationship between 21 Savage and his wife was already hanging by a thread before this even happened. Others believe the marriage, or whatever arrangement people think exists, was only surviving because certain boundaries had not been crossed in public. And now that this rumor has made everything feel louder, more visible, and harder to deny, those boundaries may have allegedly collapsed all at once. One thing that really kept fueling the fire was the way old interviews and clips started resurfacing all over again. Fans were pulling moments where Latto talked about relationships, standards, and the kind of life she wanted. But this time, people weren't reposting those clips to admire her confidence. They were reposting
them to compare her words with the rumor she now seemed tied to, and that changed the tone completely. What used to sound aspirational suddenly sounded ironic to a lot of people online. Comments got sharper, memes got nastier, and the sympathy that might have existed early on started getting replaced by judgment. But the most uncomfortable twist in all of this may be what people are saying happened inside 21 Savage's own circle. Because according to some online reports, there are whispers that not everybody around him is handling this quietly. Some allegedly feel like he has pushed things too far and created a mess that could start affecting more than just his relationships. Image, business, music, partnerships, all of that can start taking hits when private chaos turns into public narrative. And that's where things get dangerous in celebrity life. Because once a story gets strong enough online, it doesn't matter whether it's fully confirmed or not. It starts shaping perception. And perception can be just as powerful as truth when the internet gets hold of something messy. There are even claims floating around that some people in his camp allegedly wanted the situation shut down quickly before it grew into a full scandal attached to his name. But by then, it may have already been too late. Because once fans believe they found a real-life triangle playing out behind the glamour, they don't let go easily. They want updates, reactions, screenshots, slips, tension, proof. And the more none of that arrives clearly, the more they create their own version of events, which is exactly what seems to be happening now. Some fans are convinced the wife is preparing to step away and protect her dignity. Others think she's staying firm because walking away now would feel like handing another woman a public victory. And then there's a third group who believes 21 Savage is trying to smooth things over privately while keeping both sides from detonating in public. But if that's true, it may not be working, because the internet has already started treating this like the point of no return. People are no longer asking whether feelings got hurt. They're asking whether the alleged pregnancy has now changed the entire balance of power. And once that question enters the room, every interaction starts carrying more weight. Every look means more. Every silence feels louder. Every delay feels intentional. Which is why this doesn't feel like a rumor that's just going to disappear after a few days. It feels like the kind of story that keeps mutating. And if the reports are true that his wife is no longer willing to sit back quietly while another woman becomes part of the family narrative, then the emotional damage may only be starting to show on the surface. The most unsettling part of this entire rumor storm is that it no longer feels like something that can be cleaned up with one post, one caption, or one carefully worded denial. Too many people have already attached emotion to it. Too many fans have already chosen sides. And once a story turns into a public battle over pride, loyalty, and humiliation, it stops being simple. By this point, the internet had already done what it always does best. It turns scattered rumors into a full-blown narrative with heroes, villains, and a supposed victim in the middle. And depending on who you ask, that victim changes every 5 minutes. To some people, Latto is the one who may have allegedly been led on, hidden in plain sight, and strung along in a relationship that gave her attention but never full security. In that version of the story, the rumored pregnancy is not some reckless move. It's the result of a woman believing what she was told behind closed doors, believing promises, believing timing would eventually work in her favor, believing she was not just a side chapter, but the future. And if that's how she saw it, then the confidence people think they're seeing from her makes more sense, because it would not come from arrogance. It would come from expectation. But to others, his wife is the one people feel for most, not because the internet suddenly became moral, but because many see her as the person allegedly carrying the deepest public embarrassment, the one who, according to rumor after rumor, may have been expected to stay graceful while watching her personal life become online entertainment. And that is exactly why the phrase, "the family was left divided," has been popping up everywhere in fan conversations. Because if these reports are even partly true, then this is no longer just a love triangle. This is a fracture line running through everything connected to it. Emotions, image, children, relatives, close friends, and the private history nobody on the outside fully understands. One account that got a lot of traction claimed that tensions allegedly reached a point where family members were now choosing who to support more openly than before. Some were said to be urging his
wife to protect her dignity and stop carrying a situation that had allegedly become too disrespectful to defend. Others supposedly argued that no matter how bad things looked, public separation would only make the spectacle worse and give the internet exactly what it wanted. And that's the trap with celebrity relationships. Sometimes the pain is one thing, but the fear of becoming a public storyline is even bigger. Because once people smell weakness or heartbreak, they don't just observe it, they consume it. And that may be exactly what makes this rumor so difficult for everyone involved to navigate. According to Chatter, one of the biggest emotional sticking points in the alleged fallout has been the idea of being replaced without warning. Not officially, not legally, not even necessarily romantically in a simple sense, but symbolically, emotionally, publicly. That kind of replacement can hurt even more because it doesn't need paperwork to feel real. It just needs people to start believing the new woman now holds the louder position. And right now, whether fair or not, that is exactly the perception many fans seem to have built around Latto. Not because anything has been confirmed, but because the rollout, the whispers, the silence, and the online clues have all blended together into one very dangerous impression. And impressions are hard to reverse, especially when social media is already doing the storytelling for you. There are also growing rumors that 21 Savage himself may have seriously underestimated how explosive this would become. Some people online think he believed the same formula that worked before would work again. Stay quiet, move carefully, don't feed the blogs, and let the noise burn itself out.
But this time, if the pregnancy speculation is what people think it is, then the emotional stakes are simply too high for that old strategy to hold. Because a baby rumor is not the same as a cheating rumor. A baby rumor creates permanence in people's minds. It creates imagined futures, imagined betrayals, imagined family dynamics. It makes fans feel like they're watching the beginning of a whole new chapter instead of just another scandal. And that's why so many people are now treating this as the moment that allegedly destroyed the marriage, even if nobody involved has actually confirmed that anything is over. In the court of public opinion, the damage has already been done. One viral comment summed it up in a way that sounded harsh, but brutally effective. The moment the internet started believing another woman was carrying his future, the marriage stopped looking protected. And honestly, that line explains why this story has hit people so hard. Because at the center of all this noise is one question that nobody can answer with certainty, but everybody keeps asking anyway. If these reports are true, who does 21 Savage really see as his future now? That question is what keeps this rumor alive, because if the answer is his wife, then people expect him to step up, deny what needs to be denied, and publicly restore what looks broken. If the answer is Latto, then people believe a much bigger fallout may be coming. And if the answer is neither, then the ugliest possibility of all starts taking shape, that two women may now be carrying the emotional consequences of a man who was never fully honest with either one. That possibility is exactly why fans are so locked in, not because they know the truth, but because they recognize the pattern. And in entertainment culture, familiar patterns always pull people in the hardest. Now the only thing left is to see whether this rumor fades, gets denied, or explodes even further through one small move nobody sees coming. Because at this stage, it would not take much. One cryptic post, one shady lyric, one suspicious unfollow, one public appearance with the wrong energy, and the entire internet would go right back into chaos. So for now, all anyone can do is watch. Watch the silence, watch the reactions, watch the body language, watch the people around them. Because when a story gets this emotionally loaded, the truth usually doesn't arrive through a clean announcement. It leaks through tension. And if the reports are right, then what fans are witnessing may not be the end of this alleged situation at all. It may only be the moment where everything that was hidden finally became impossible to contain. What makes this alleged situation even harder to look away from is the possibility that nobody involved can walk away from it clean anymore, even if they wanted to. Because whether these reports are true, exaggerated, or somewhere in between, the internet has already done what it always does. It has attached identities to everybody in the story. Latto is now being talked about as either the bold woman who allegedly stopped hiding, or the reckless woman who stepped into a situation too messy to control. 21 Savage is being painted as either the man caught
Between two lives, or the man who allegedly created chaos and then disappeared behind silence. And his wife is being viewed as either the calm woman holding her dignity together, or the woman fans fear may have been publicly disrespected one time too many. And once people start assigning those roles, it becomes almost impossible to undo them. Because public narratives stick, especially when they involve love, betrayal, pregnancy rumors, and family tension. By now, some fans are no longer even focused on whether the original gossip is fully accurate. They're more interested in what happens next, and that alone tells you how far this story has traveled. It has moved beyond, is this true, and entered the much more dangerous zone of, what will they do now? That is where reputations start getting tested. Because when a rumor like this gains momentum, every move becomes symbolic. If Latto posts confidently, people read it as shade. If she stays quiet, people call it guilt. If 21 Savage appears relaxed, people accuse him of not caring. If he looks tense, they call it damage control. If his wife says nothing, people say she's suffering in silence. If she responds, they say she's finally had enough. There is literally no peaceful lane left once a situation becomes this public. And according to online chatter, that may be exactly why the alleged tension has not cooled off the way some people expected it to. Because the emotional pressure is now coming from all directions at once. Not just private pain, but public interpretation. Some reports are even suggesting that people close to the situation are quietly preparing for more fallout, not less. Not necessarily because anyone plans to say something dramatic outright, but because emotions that get pushed down for too long usually find a way to leak eventually. And in celebrity life, they rarely leak in a controlled way. Sometimes it's a friend talking too much. Sometimes it's a relative posting something vague. Sometimes it's a lyric that suddenly feels too specific. Sometimes it's one tiny action that confirms what people were already afraid might be true. And fans are waiting for exactly that kind of slip. Because right now, the internet doesn't feel satisfied. It feels hungry. Hungry for a response. Hungry for confirmation.
hungry for somebody to break first. And that's why this doesn't feel like a rumor cycle that will disappear quietly by next week. It feels like something that has settled into people's minds in a way that could keep growing every time one of these names trends again. There's also another layer to this that people have started talking about more seriously: the emotional cost of trying to protect appearances while everything underneath is allegedly cracking. Because even if no one involved ever confirms the worst of what's being said, the pressure of being watched through a crisis like this can do its own kind of damage. Imagine trying to hold yourself together while strangers dissect your pain for entertainment. Imagine trying to keep a family stable while people online turn every silence into a headline. Imagine carrying anger, confusion, embarrassment, and disappointment while the whole world acts like it's an episode they can binge. That is why some of the strongest reactions online have not even been funny or messy. Some have actually sounded deeply uncomfortable. One fan wrote, "If even a little of this is true, then everybody involved is probably hurting more than the internet realizes." And that may be the most honest thing anyone has said about this entire situation. Because behind the gossip, behind the album rollout theories, behind the screenshots and side-eyes and comment sections, there may be people dealing with something emotionally brutal in real time. And if that's the case, then the hardest part may not even be the public embarrassment. It may be the private aftermath, the late-night arguments, the broken trust, the conversations that can't be taken back, the look in someone's face when they realize things may never go back to how they were before. That's the part the blogs can't really capture. And yet, it's exactly the part that makes stories like this hit so hard. Because people don't just react to the celebrity names, they react to the human fear inside it. The fear of not being enough, the fear of being lied to, the fear of being replaced, the fear of finding out that what you thought was secure may have only been stable because the full truth had not surfaced yet. And if the current reports are anything to go by, that fear may be sitting at the center of everything happening around 21 Savage, Latto, and the woman many believe is now facing the hardest public moment of all. So at this point, all eyes are on what comes next. Does somebody finally speak? Does somebody deny it? Does somebody quietly step away? Or does this entire situation get even louder once more pieces start slipping into public view? Because one thing is
very clear. This rumor has already done enough damage to leave people looking at these relationships differently than before. And even if no one ever confirms the full truth, the questions are already out there. Too many questions. Too many rumors. Too many emotional cracks for people to simply pretend nothing happened. That is why fans are shocked. That is why emotions ran high. That is why the family was left divided in the minds of so many people watching from the outside. Because once the internet believes a private situation has turned into a public collapse, it never really lets go until somebody gives it closure. And right now, closure is the one thing nobody seems ready to offer. And honestly, that is what makes this whole story so wild to watch unfold. Because if these reports and rumors are even remotely true, then this was never just about a celebrity relationship. This turned into a full emotional storm involving pride, secrecy, public embarrassment, and the kind of tension that can shake up everybody connected to it. From the alleged pregnancy reveal, to the reported fallout behind the scenes, to the growing online belief that 21 Savage may have been trying to balance two completely different worlds at once. This situation has people talking for a reason. But again, let's keep it real and keep it responsible. This video is commentary based on online reports, social media reactions, fan theories, and the kind of entertainment gossip that spreads fast when major names get attached to a messy headline. None of this should be taken as confirmed fact unless the people involved speak on it directly. Right now, people are reacting to what is being reported, what is being implied, and what fans believe they are seeing play out in real time. Still, if there is one thing this rumor storm has made clear, it's that fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family was left divided in the court of public opinion. And whether this all fades away next week or turns into something even bigger, people are definitely going to be watching every move from here. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think these reports are being blown out of proportion? Or do you think there's way more truth behind this than people want to admit? If the rumors were true, do you think 21 Savage's wife had every right to explode? Or do you think the internet is creating a bigger scandal than what's really going on? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I already know this one is going to split the room. And if you enjoy this kind of celebrity drama, messy breakdowns, and entertainment commentary that gets into all the tea without missing the details, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next wild story. Because trust me, if anything else drops in this situation, you already know we're going to be right here talking about it.